Alec, welcome. What's going on?
Well, we've been talking about a lot of animated films recently, and there's been some pretty good ones that we've been talking about, and some not so good. But I think it's time we talk about a movie that I actually forgot was even coming out,
Yeah, kind
and it
of
kind
snuck up on us.
of snuck up on us, and it kind of it was just like, oh, also it's coming out on Disney Plus. Like I feel like they didn't really announce it ahead of time. They're just like, yeah, it'll be available on Disney Plus for free for
Yeah.
subscribers. It's not a premium access. It's just there you go. You have a Disney Plus account. You can watch it.
Disney Plus only thing. Yeah, it's not even
Yeah.
in theaters, right?
I don't believe so.
Because I would have seen it in theaters. I
It's
think
it
if it
is
was.
it was released in theaters. I think in most other countries, like or where places that don't have streaming service. But um, yeah, interesting. This is a film that I would also really like to see in theaters. Maybe a re-release towards Oscar season, possibly, or maybe they'll bring it out in theaters later. I don't know, but
Hmm. What are your thoughts?
um, this film was lovely and wonderful. Is Pixar back? This is what I asked my friends that I was watching. Is Pixar officially back? I think
What was the last Pixar movie?
the last Pixar movie was Soul, which
They never left.
before that was outward, outward, onward. Before that was
Onward's all right.
just all right.
Yeah, yeah. I think Luca is just all right. I'm gonna be honest.
You think Luca's just
Yeah,
all right? Ah, I loved this
I
movie.
think
I thought this movie was wonderful.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was a
All right, tell me
beautiful
what. Tell
film.
me why you love it. Tell me.
Um, it's nostalgic look at childhood, at friendships. Uh, it's very unique animation. This is not traditional like you look at like Monsters Inc. or Finding Nemo or
Yeah.
any other sort of traditional sort of
Wallace
looking.
and Gromit. You look at
It's
any
not
of
really some
those.
other sort of traditional Pixar film. Wallace and Gromit.
Not
No, it
like that.
doesn't look like Wallace and Gromit either. It has a very unique art style, a very unique animation style. And fun fact, a lot of this movie was very inspired by Studio Ghibli films.
Mm-hmm.
Right down to the name of the main town, Porto Rosso, which is a reference to Porco Rosso, which is a film
Mm-hmm.
uh, about a World War I fighter pilot who's a pig. Yeah, there's lots of little cute little references to Ghibli stuff that I saw. There's a part kind of early on where Luca and Alberto are trying out their jerry rigged Vespa,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a moment where he's going down the hill and he loses like the entire Vespa, and so he then starts doing this run and then does a jump and the pose, the jump, the run, the jump, and the pose that he makes, all iconic animation stuff from Lupin the Third, the Castle of
Wow.
Cagliostro specifically, all stuff that was straight out of that movie. And I was like, I know what that is. Turns out I looked up the director of the film had all the people on staff watch basically the whole catalog of Ghibli for inspiration for this movie. Just in terms of I think getting sort of a style and types of animation down. So there's like an interesting. Uh, it's not like fluid animation. There's some interesting like frames cut and things like that. It's a little more stilted, but in a way that doesn't feel like it almost looks like it's a 2D animated film that they've made in 3D
Yeah.
in some ways. Um, and I thought it worked super well. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, those are some reasons why I liked it.
Yeah.
Music was also very nice. environments were pretty.
Hmm. I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like Alberto.
You didn't like Alberto?
No,
Why not?
no, I thought he was a punk.
I thought it was a
He was
punk.
toxic.
He was toxic.
He's a toxic friendship.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I just like I didn't sympathize when we were supposed to be sympathizing with him when he was like trying to pull him away from Julia basically and like force his hand by doing the whole sea monster thing. Where he's
Oh yeah,
like,
it was the jealous friend.
yeah,
Like
I've never
angle
been a
there.
huge fan of the jealous friend thing in general, but especially that when it like you try to make you sympathize with him there, and I wasn't really
But
feeling it. But
I to me the reason it worked is because we've already established him so much as to me it didn't come out of nowhere. Like it does feel like oh it's the jealous friend thing, but then I mean you realize this you know his dad just left him, so he clearly has like abandonment issues, which is why he's also like been like I don't need anyone, and you know I just do things on my own. So for the first time when he finally finds somebody he connects with, like a really close friend, and then his close friend is just you know having nothing to do with him anymore, seemingly in his mind anyway. It's not a rational thought, right? But you know he gets really defensive, and yeah, he pulls a pretty dick move uh, towards the latter stages of the film. The beginning of the third act is probably what I'd say. It's the big thing. Yeah. Full disclosure, we're going to spoiler territory now officially. Um, Overall, I really enjoyed it. Seems like Zach was like, it was okay. So
he's all right.
you
I'm a
get
fan
that.
I'm a fan of Julia.
Julia was wonderful. I
She-
thought she was a wonderful character. I also really liked
I also like
father.
Julia's father. Yes.
he was awesome. Uh, Massimo Marcovaldo.
Massimo.
He was awesome. Has one arm. He's a fisherman, a sea monster hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So like first of all, I guess
So the
this
whole
is kind of
concept, right?
so the whole concept of the film. It's kind of like I guess you could say think Little Mermaid, but in reverse, kind of a little bit.
No.
Maybe not really. No, I
Maybe
guess
not
that's
so
not,
much. Maybe
that's,
not at
no.
all.
No, maybe yeah. Scratch that. Reverse that. So
Well,
it's okay. You have sea monsters.
well, you have
Sea monsters.
this like this breed of sea monster that can transform to human when it goes on the land,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like so the themes of the movie are interesting because it's like a combination of, you know, the kid that wants to explore and go out, and like the parents are trying to like keep him safe, like no, don't go out there, you know. So
It's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous, but then also it gets into the theme of like judging things that you don't know, you know, like things that are different.
Mm-hmm.
So that everybody is just hostile towards sea monsters without really thinking about it. So it's interesting.
Well, I don't think they might not even realize that they're sentient. You know,
Yeah.
they don't even seem to recognize that they're like they have feelings or anything like that.
Because, I mean, they changed the whole social landscape of that town, like, really quickly. It was after that race that it's like suddenly everybody has a change of heart. It's like into sea monsters, and then these closeted sea monsters come out. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's what does it is the big change of people the once you have somebody who's so devoted against dead set against this thing. Once you see him, he was like the big figurehead of like, oh, sea monsters are evil in the town.
Hmm.
See him coming to their defense. I mean, I feel like that's going to shatter a lot of people, particularly if it's just like a small little community like this town is. It can shatter a lot of the
Yeah, everybody.
close-mindedness of the
Yeah.
people.
Well, let's talk about the villain guy, Mr. Smacky. He loves to smack. He loves to
Mr.
smack people and
Smacky.
have people smack each other. A lot of smacking involved.
Oh yeah, his little friend, his friend that he keeps.
He keeps telling them to smack
keeps
each
telling
other,
him-
and then
yeah.
and he's actually smacking kids and stuff, and like, wow, he's really just smacking people around here.
Ercole is the bad guy. He looks very Ghibli villain. He's got like the huge nose. He kind of has like a waxy sort of like
Yeah, I hate
kind
that
of
guy. I hate that guy.
Yeah, he's a
Oh.
jerk. You know, he's a big jerk.
And then somehow, but what I don't get is how
The Pompadour too, as well.
his buddies had such a change of heart so quickly on him. Like
I
they were
mean,
with him with every scummy thing he did, every step of the way, just straight up bullying people and like murdering sea monsters before, and now they're suddenly they have a change of heart after this race.
well, they see what's going on too there, and then they're like, you know what, we put up with this abuse long enough. You could no, there were moments where you could see that they were legitimately like thinking that, like,
I don't know.
are we gonna keep putting up with this abuse, type of thing. There was no like conversation like
enabled
that
him,
because they
but-
were, well, yeah, there's henchmen, right?
I don't know how he had so much power over these two guys. Like no one else seemed to really care that much about him. He was just like he was strutting on his Vespa, and then he had these two lackeys following him.
Yeah,
He's
because
almost like
everyone
a
was,
he's almost like a Groose type character.
yeah,
How it's
except not nice, except not redeemable.
Mm-hmm.
Groose is a wonderful character. He is not. I mean, he is, but just for a completely different reason.
Well,
Because
yeah,
he's evil.
He's just one of those. Yeah, like there's no arc there. It's just kind of
He's just
he's
the
gotta
bad
wait
guy.
for the guys, everybody else to turn on him, kind of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, he's. And, well, I mean, even Julia says at one point, it's like they're not. They don't like you. They're just all afraid of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're just going along with what you say because they're afraid of you. So, yeah, I mean, so he's basically like a late teenager, maybe even in his early 20s, and he's still like participating in these like little competitions, so he
Yeah.
can just lord it over the rest of the community.
Yeah, so the competition is swimming, biking, and pasta eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the three.
The three major staples
Also
of
very
the Italian Riviera.
There was like no judges. Like I don't know how this thing is run. The people they came over and just eat the pasta, and they're like, "Okay, I guess I'm done." And they left a couple. They left a couple pieces there, and like.
Well, we didn't have
So they were just like there was
the
no.
judges were the crowd. The crowd would have called foul. The crowd would have been
the
like,
guy
"Hey!"
the guy left a couple of pasta, and then the bully guy was like, "Oh no, he's done. All right, moving on."
Yeah.
And it was like,
Wow.
wow, this thing. How do you even control this? Luca
It's chaos,
was
absolute chaos.
underwater doing his part. Like no one knew what was going on there. It was like,
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, he was able to just do the diving suit thing
yeah.
loophole. I guess they were able to kind of see the water. See, the water's very clear in the French Riviera. So the French Riviera, the Italian Riviera, and so they're just. I guess they were just able to see. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, he's. I mean, there's no rule saying you can't do that. I guess so.
Yeah, but it's just like, how do they keep an eye on all this stuff? There's no one there. but that last race, what a sham! What a sham that last race was.
What a sham! What?
No one took that race seriously. Even the bully guy, who was so, like, everybody got distracted by the sea monster shenanigans. But then, even the people that were all the way in the front of the pack, after everybody got pulled back, they were just casually biking along, and they somehow got past in the end anyway. I just noticed how much of a mess that race was. People were going all over the place. Somehow Alberto comes running in with the umbrella, and then he gets to the end, and then he's one of the winners. Like, how does this thing work? He just came in halfway through the race.
Maybe he was always on that team. He was always supposed to be on that team. Right?
But he wasn't, though. It was solo.
It was a little weird,
So-
admittedly, but I think they wanted to show support of the sea monsters, the sea monster support army.
Yeah. Everybody had a big change of heart. It was interesting, and we were.
Do you just is that what you don't like? You don't like the fact that everyone had a change of heart at the end?
I would have liked it if everybody stuck to their traditional values and hated sea monsters. Yeah.
What?
No. Well, I thought it was a bit sudden that they were all on board, but it's whatever.
I mean, like I said, they weren't really all on board at first. It did take the main guy who hunts sea monsters,
Well, the fact
aka
that
Julia's dad,
yeah,
to side with them. Like that to them is like, oh, that's. I mean, even then they were still a little like, they kind of like walked off. They weren't like all in support necessarily.
it's not one of the movies. These movies where I'm gonna argue against it. Like I'm not that stressed about it, but I just don't feel the same love that people seem to feel for the movie. I don't know.
I thought it was charming and nostalgic. That was kind of the vibe of the film. And you had these really great like dream sequences were all pretty wonderful, where Luca was dreaming of like flying up into the stars and seeing all the fishes, swimming with the fishes and everything. These like wonderful little animation sequences like that that are just very memorable. Yeah, so I mean, it's ultimately about their friendship. So Luca, is stuck underwater. His mother and father, his dad's kind of weird. And who's his dad, played by Jim Gaffigan. It's the other clean comedy guy. Jim Gaffigan. He's like worried about like his snail race or something. Like he's like, oh, this baby's gonna
That is
be
weird. He's weird,
like,
but yeah.
yeah.
You know what I also found interesting is that when they got on land and they were like, Luca was struggling with walking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that like the parents had no problems walking.
So they've done it before.
They say that, but then they were like, well, I mean, you'd think that, but then he was like, "Oh, we're hideous." Wow. So I was like, "Oh, so then he has."
Because they've gotten fat over time. They've.
I thought it was just the human form he was talking
no,
about.
I think to me, what I was getting from that was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Like, I'm put on a few pounds. Or
I'm pretty
human
sure.
form
I'm pretty
looks...
sure it's a human. I interpret it as, wow, humans are hideous. Like, oh, we look weird because it's funny because sea monsters. Oh, sea monsters look weird, but to them, humans look weird.
No,
So
I interpreted that differently.
But the mother was a master. She was a master on land. She was throwing kids. She was throwing kids in that fountain.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
I
second
think
nature.
The implication was that they had experimented with it before. Then they realized that it was too dangerous to do.
So what was the reasoning that they didn't want them to come out here again?
Because they didn't. The reason that they didn't want him on
Luca
land.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want him to take the risk. Because he was a little kid. They didn't want him taking the risk to go on land, be found, and killed. Because people hate sea monsters. True. Which he almost did get killed.
Yeah, it was interesting because I thought like, oh, once he was on land, it's like how do you find someone out? It's like you're not going to suspect they're a sea monster, but then they did the thing where whenever you get hit with water, then you start showing a little bit. So
so there's a lot of fun stuff with that. I got to hide. I got to hide it. Can't be you can't like waking up in the morning, which I thought that was a fun thing where she like pushes the window open and doing the bugle call.
Yeah.
While they're like scrambling to get dry. Yeah.
They were Luca was way too good on that bike. I'll tell you. I've never met a human, day one human that's riding a bike like that. It's pretty wild, but.
Are you talking about the first time he rode a bike, or are you talking about the fact that he
day one
after
day one of being a human, he's walking and then riding a bike proficiently, pretty quickly. So I just found that interesting. Yeah,
I mean, sure. You gotta get the movie going forward. You can't have it be 3.5 hours long where he has to learn how to walk every day. So it's like it's efficient storytelling. So they get swept up into this little adventure, and it's a cute little story of their friendship. And I will say I was actually a little surprised about during the beginning of Act 3, where Alberto is the one who ultimately gets seen. Is the one that gets transformed. So he's like, here, I'll show you, and he's the one that transforms, and then Luca turns on him. Like it betrays him. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised about that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was like, oh, he's gonna go do it too, and then they'll be like, oh, and then Alberto will be like, see, you don't need anyone anyway. You don't just need me, and then it would be like that would be the argument. But instead, the argument was like, no, Luca like just straight up turned on him.
But my brother and I were watching it. We were like, we thought it was like he deserved it. Alberto brought it on himself. But
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, because he tried to literally sabotage his friend because he was like, he saw them being happy together. So he was like, okay, let me ruin it for you.
Okay, so to that degree, he kind of, yes.
So it's like, you expect him to go down with the ship that you just caused? Like, you sabotage him and then you expect him to side with you? I mean,
I don't think he necessarily expected. So remember, in Alberto's mind, he's the elder friend, right? He's like, I know all the ropes. I know what I'm talking about. So you expected him to just go along with what he was what he was doing, and just be like, yeah, he'll come back with me now. So when that doesn't happen, when Luca's like, no, I'm a free thinker, I can think for myself, I don't need you telling me that. I'm gonna make up my own mind and say sea monster in human form, and
Yeah.
straight up just betray him. Which I was just, it was a dynamic. It was interesting. I did not expect it.
Right. My brother, before it happened, he predicted that Alberto was gonna push Luca in, and then
mm,
and be like, "Oh, look at the sea monster," but then he went himself.
yeah.
So that made it for a little bit of a twist from what we
Mm.
expected, but
Ultimately, I felt like how that played out went well overall. I mean, the fact that Luca went and apologized, but it was also like, well, I'm gonna fix everything. I won the competition. We can still go out and do everything that we want to do. And so he goes and attempts to. But I was like, good dads in movies always, like, non toxic, like, masculine figures always, like, it's like a warm, there's like a warmth in my heart. So the fact that, like, the dad was like, oh, I'm gonna go look for him. It was like, no, I don't think he wants to be found. He's like, all the same, look for him, because he's made this bond with Alberto. And it's like, I was just like, oh, this is just so wholesome. I love him so much. He's like this big grizzled guy. You can see, like, he's like, his skin's all weathered. That was a cool thing too. The texture of skin was, like, different on a lot of the characters. Hair all looked different too. With him, you could see, like, the weathering and scarring of just being, like, doing all this rugged sea work his whole life. Yeah.
They did show like two different sides of two different kinds of fathers too, between that father and then the Luca's father. Very different.
Who's kind of a goofy, neglectful,
beta,
dopey dad. Yeah, the beta dad.
beta dad, alpha dad.
Yeah, but then you had Ugo, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, the see-through uncle.
Yes.
It's just very weird.
I love that guy, actually.
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, I was kind of hoping,
creepy uncle.
I was kind of hoping we would get some, other than the post-credit scene. I was hoping we would get some, like, legit underwater, like, deep sea stuff with him.
I thought we were gonna go there. I thought that's where we are gonna go, and then eventually end up back out. But...
Oh, did you think maybe, like, oh, we'll go there first? I was thinking that maybe a third act thing would happen, where maybe they'd go back underwater and he'd get, like, sent down there. I was kind of thinking maybe something like that could happen.
But basically, Luca was like, "Oh, f that noise! I don't want."
Yeah,
like, that's the last straw.
Like,
my parents are trying to send me to down with a creepy uncle down at the bottom. Yeah,
he's just like, nope.
Because like he had no reason to think there's anything wrong with being out there. Like on land just seemed great. They're having a fun time. And other than like being found as sea creatures, there really wasn't any threat. Like the only hostile guy was the bully. Everybody else seemed fine. It's just the fact that you could be found as a sea creature is the only thing to be worried about. But
yeah, which, I mean, is dangerous. It rains and it literally live next to water.
But apparently, none of these sea monsters thought to ever just like, oh, hey, we're sea monsters, but we communicate like normal humans. Because then that everybody turned around on it real quick when they were like, oh, they're not vicious monsters. Okay, that's fine.
At least in this little village, yes, but that might be different elsewhere in the world.
Our theories, we were theorizing that outside the world, because we were like, oh, they're sending him off to the school in the end. So I'm like, oh, he's gonna might have some trouble out there. But we were theorizing maybe maybe this town specifically was biased against sea monsters because they're right there by the sea. Maybe other places are just like, oh, that's fine.
They're a little bit more open-minded about the sea monster.
Yeah, they have a specific bias here.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it is like there's a subtle like racial kind of thing to it, right?
There's a racial thing. I've heard some people take interpretations of this as sort of an like almost like a metaphor for being gay as well.
Yeah, I thought about that too, especially when the two like transformed at the end. I was like, oh, they were basically closeted sea monsters, Yeah. And then once they saw them being accepted, they kind of like showed their true colors. So
yeah, I think there's an element to it that I don't think it's necessarily has to be that. I think the themes of the film are a little bit more. In my mind, I think they're a little bit more universal than just that. I do think it's interesting, and I think it's nice that the film has an audience that can speak to that part of experience. So I think that's good. I think that being overly critical of Disney for you didn't go far enough is like, well, maybe not to your point, but I feel like the themes are universal. I'm not gay. I got something out of this because it was a sweet friendship story. If you wanted to take it at that other angle, I think there's enough in the movie to take it that way. And I think that if that sort of helps you, then by all means. But I didn't necessarily overtly take it that way. But kind of interesting that's I think there's an element of that's there, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is nice. And even though I didn't like Alberto's character really, like we did get the most redemption for him was at the end when he did that nice gesture.
Yeah,
sending him to school basically, but
you send him to school and he's gonna hang out with an actual father figure.
Yeah. Also, I did really like Giuseppe as well, the little fish from when he was like the fish herder.
Oh yeah, so that stuff was all really cute. He was like a fish herder, and it was like this little lamb.
They literally make lamb noises.
They literally making lamb noises, and yeah, Giuseppe, the one who at the end ended up apparently going down to the very ends of the deep.
Yeah, it was like a little weird vibes going on here that he took advantage of this poor little fish and took him down. He didn't know any better. It's like, oh, uncle. A lot of they were very fixated on the Vespa thing. What I do appreciate is that Disney will do this sometimes where they'll take like this one thing and they'll have a character fixate on it when it's like otherwise, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important, but like from their limited perspective, it's like, wow, that's the greatest thing ever.
I also love that very much. To me, it makes there's just something like very human about that to me, like how we get these fixations on things that in the grand scheme of things don't really matter. When you're especially if it's something that you're kind of new to or like you're just introduced to and you're like, wow, this one thing is awesome, and you just get like super into it. Yeah, I like that sort of storytelling device. I've always found that very fun. There's another show that I'm watching right now that I'm not going to say what it is, but there is a character in that is also fixated on something, and that makes me very happy. So, so yeah.
And there was, I forget who said it. Someone was like, risking your life for a Vespa. And I thought it was a funny line. I can't remember who said it.
Was it?
I wrote it down.
Not Julia. Maybe
it might be.
She was like, "What's so great about a Vespa?" Yeah, I think she was like that at one point. I was like, "You kidding? They're the coolest thing ever."
Yeah.
They get that. I love how they're showing like all the models of it in the little store, and they have like the junky one that looks like it's falling apart. It's like that's the one we got. With the prize money, we can get that one.
Yeah, and another thing that I really liked that we talked about with like Disney and Pixar in general is that this is just like another little snapshot into a different lifestyle,
different culture,
culture.
Yeah.
So like they do that. Disney and Pixar have been doing well with that, just like taking one little town and one like little cultural element and just kind of running with it. And it's like,
yeah, we saw it with Soul really well, I thought. And
Soul, and then you go to Coco. It's like you're touching on all these different cultures,
Like, Raya did it as well. Raya did it with sort of like the Philippines and like Vietnam and that sort of the Oceania and that part of the island nations and stuff of East Asia. A lot of that stuff was very, culturally rich there, and I totally agree with you. I think that they've been doing a cool
Toy Story 4.
Yeah, all the cultural touchstones.
Toys,
yeah.
Representation. So,
the director of this was the director of La Luna, which, if you've watched that, you can see a lot of similarities, especially in the father figure in that one too, the eyeless dad. And I think he must really like that. The director and the artists that he employs must have Just really like that character
Yeah.
design. It's fun. I think it's fun.
And from Disney, we also have Encanto coming later, which is like I think a Colombian based
Yes,
movie.
this is one that me and you were like, what?
Yeah, we
we had no
after
idea.
we talked about In the Heights, we came out
Yeah,
and I looked and I was like, oh, Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music for this, and also Stephanie Beatriz is the one
yeah,
cast member we know of starring role,
yeah.
and it seems to be like similar vibes. I don't know. I don't really know much. We don't know that much about it, but
Mm,
so that'll be interesting. It's like another cultural thing to touch down.
mm.
So, anything else for Luca?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Music was really good. Art was amazing as always. Animation was unique and interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I would posit that after the mid 2000 doldrums of Pixar, I feel like after Coco, which I haven't seen, but after that it kind of been hit after hit. I know a lot of people were disappointed by Incredibles 2. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was as good as the original, but I thought people were maybe a little overblown and not liking it. So I thought it was still great. After The Good Dinosaur, I think things finally maybe they turned around a little bit. So, 'cause boy, that movie was.
I never saw The Good Dinosaur. I don't think. Yeah.
I think I saw the first 10 minutes of it, and I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I was
It
like,
doesn't interest me at all.
I
But
was like, nope. My brother saw the whole thing, and he said it's not good. Because he watched it with his kids, and he was like, yeah.
talk about iconic animation. We talk about
Let's
Shark
get
Tale.
this party started. That's the only thing I remember from that movie.
Yeah.
I saw it in the ads all the time. It was like just Will Smith saying, "Let's get this party started."
So what score would you give this movie out of 10?
This lovely movie is it's not a perfect movie. I think some of your critiques are valid. They didn't necessarily bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought it was a very sweet film. I really liked it. Not top tier, not top tier Pixar, but it's again another sign that Pixar is willing to think outside the box. I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really liked it a lot. I mean, like I said, all the Ghibli influence like speaks to me personally. That just was really great. So.
Right.
I was like trying to put like 8.59, but I was like, I think I did like this movie that much. I know. What did I give Soul though? That's the question. This movie wasn't as good as Soul.
I think 8.5. I don't know.
Did I really?
I don't know. I'm not 100%.
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't in good conscience.
Can't do this.
I can't in good conscience give this a better score than Soul though.
Comparative scores can only take us so far because I feel like I already messed up with some of our early scores. Like the scoring thing's too high, but
that's kind of fair. But I can't score higher than Soul. Never. Nope. I gave it a 9.
You gave it a 9. So. I gave it 8.5 or what?
Yes.
Okay. So you're sticking with your 9 out of 10?
Like I said, I'm kind of torn between 8.5 and 9. It is there is maybe a level of like greatness. It's a nostalgic movie. It doesn't speak to much headier themes than that. I mean, granted, if you're in if you took it from like a racial or LGBT angle, it might speak to you maybe a little bit more, even harder on that part. At that point, I can see you being like, this movie's amazing. This movie's like the best movies ever made because it's like speaking to me as an individual. And again, I would argue the themes are a little bit more universal than maybe just that reading, but it wasn't necessarily like as, I guess maybe heady or thought-provoking as something like Soul, which like stuck with me for a long time. Still now, I still think about that movie.
Yeah.
I think with that, I'll temper it a little bit. It's an 8.5. I still think it's a wonderfully charming movie. Again, kudos to the thinking outside the box and such, but maybe not quite that levels. Maybe getting ahead of myself a little bit.
I think so. I think I'm between two scores myself, but
okay.
I'm contemplating going up.
Okay.
Only like a half step up. I'll say 7.5. 7.5 out of 10. I
That's
came
fair.
in thinking 7. 7 was where I
Yeah.
came in at. But in retrospect, I'm like, is it better than? I mean, like I think I gave like Detective Pikachu 7.5. I'm like,
Mhm.
Detective Pikachu isn't really. I wouldn't say confidently that it's better than this movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the only reason I used Soul is because direct comparison of the studio. I wasn't necessarily thinking of the live action films that we've done or anything like that.
Yeah, but when I think of, yeah, that's tough.
Like Soul, literally the last movie that came out from them. I, a movie that really hits home.
All right, I'm gonna go to a 7. Dropping to a 7.
Wait, did I just argue you back down to a
Yeah,
7?
you got
Jeez.
me.
Okay.
All
Wow.
right, so
didn't even mean to. Dang. All
well, I'm
right.
just
Well.
thinking. I gave Howl's Moving Castle a 7, I think.
Yeah.
So
give that other the Ghibli inspired film is.
this isn't better than that. I don't think. That's really. Ultimately, I came out of the movie and it didn't do much for me. Like I like the idea of like, acceptance and things like that, but I just can't think it was kind of like it's like we got there pretty quickly. The change of heart. And it's almost like they could have shoehorned that theme into almost any story. And when I get down to the story, I didn't really like Alberto. I didn't really like the villain guy. Like it's like, it's funny he smacks people, but as a villain, he didn't do much.
Beats up our main characters at one point too. He's a bully.
I know.
He's a big brute.
They were gonna like kill him. They had like spears out, and
yeah,
it's wild. All right, so that brings us to.
It's an 7.75.
7.75.
7.75. I was gonna say 8.7. 7.75.
Is that right?
Yeah, this might be mine and yours, one of our biggest splits in one of the bigger ones. I feel like Howl's Moving Castle actually we had the exact same split. I think I gave it an 8.5 and you gave it a 7.
Maybe. Yeah.
So
Tarqaron scored 7.75 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely would be lower. I thought about making it higher only because of how I scored other things, I think. But yeah. But when I think of like excellent, I think Soul is significantly better than this. I think Coco is significantly better than that. So
yeah, I still, again, that's one I still need to watch. I feel like I would get a lot out of that movie.
Yeah, maybe we'll watch it. This year.
Cultural saturation. We gotta get that.
Yeah.
Gotta get that other culture stuff.
There's a point where there's just too many cultures.
There's just too many. We just need one. It's called.
I think we'll take a break from cultures for the rest of the year.
We don't need to talk about any cultures. We're just gonna talk about video games. All right.
We'll stick to America.
We'll just stick to a freaking America. All right. So July 4th coming up. That's what I want to celebrate. Okay.
Oh, true.
So.
All right. So thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah.
Zach, what should the fine people watch after finishing this video, which is about to end shortly?
It's gonna be either Soul or Howl's Moving Castle, right? So go to Soul.
Yeah.
Watch
Go to Soul. Yeah.
Show a little Soul.
Movie is wonderful, and yeah, go check it out.
Movie's
Go
better.
check us out.
It's better. So
I mean, yeah, but that's okay.
Somebody's got to say it.
Someone's got to come out and just say it, all right?
All right. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our podcast feed. Like the video. Leave a comment. Hit the notification bell. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And like us on Facebook. Tarqaron TWO. All right.